He had no reason to do that.
Yeah.
And he did, and it turned out to be my favorite gun.
Colby here with Rugged Tactical, where every trigger pull tells a story and responsible gun ownership is a way of life. So I've got a very special guest here today. This is my cousin, Dustin. And so Dustin and I, we've spent a lot of time together. My growing up years, we've got a lot of experiences hunting. This is one of the top interviews that I was excited to do. Thank you, Dustin, for letting me come here in your home and to be able to spend some time with you and reminisce a little bit about guns and kind of what guns mean to us growing up and how it's influenced our lives. We all have people in our lives that help bring stories that we can kind of reminisce about. Dustin, to me, is one of those people that from my childhood years, we have experiences that last a lifetime. So having that said, let's dive into some questions, get to know Dustin a little bit about, and he obviously has a gun here. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, first of all, I just want to thank you for coming over and spending time with me and helping me remember things about my childhood and growing up and things that I haven't thought about in years. It means a lot to me. And we have a lot of memories together as kids, but also as adults too. I'm just happy to have you here. I'm thankful that you're here. Obviously, I'm going through some weird things right now, but it's nice to be reminded I have loved ones, I have family, I have cousins who I have history with. It's meant a lot for me. A little bit about me. I'm obviously from Utah, like you. In Boise right now. I'm a travel nurse here. Didn't hunt this last year. First year in a long time I haven't hunted, which was weird for me. But I'm going to rectify that next year for sure. And we're going to plan some hunts together.
Yeah, absolutely. Dustin and I, we grew up down in Price, and we lived on the edge of town. I actually lived there for 2 years at the edge of town, and before that I lived in another area. But when I lived in that 2 years, what for me was kind of critical, because living at the edge of town, I'd come home from school, I'd hit the motorcycle, and I'd just ride in the desert for miles.
You guys don't realize this, but his backyard was the hills.
Yeah.
My backyard was the hills. We were just on separate sections.
Separate sides, yeah.
And we just meet out in the hills.
Yeah, we would, and ride. A lot of times, when I think before I got my motorcycle, I'd hop on the back of your blaster, and you'd take me for rides, and we'd go do a little bit of hunting, shoot some pot guns. Great times, right?
Great memories.
Great memories. In conjunction with that, our families in Utah, currently you have draws where you got to put in, you have to draw out for an area. But before that, going way back, you'd be able to do all of the hunts. You could do the bow hunt, the muzzleloader, the rifle. There was no draws. You just went and picked up your tag, and in fact, and sometimes to a certain extent, it was almost like school got canceled because the whole town was going to be going out hunting, and you just went as a family. And so we spent a lot of time together as a family. Things have changed a little bit over the years. I think a lot of that is just because of the draws, where if you put in as a group and then we put in a group and then you drew out and we didn't, then it's like...
Well, they broke it up into units and times, so like I could put it for the same unit as you, but it might be at an earlier time or a later time, so it's hard to coordinate it.
Definitely a lot harder to coordinate. A lot of the traditions that we had growing up has changed. There's still opportunities that are before us that we can get together and hunt, and we'll definitely have to do that. We'll have to set something up where we can do some more hunting. Yeah. I know when the elk herds are doing good, they give some over-the-counter tag. We'll have to coordinate one of these days. Anyway, so that's kind of the environment that we grew up in, where we went hunting together as a family.
We had so many memories together.
Lot of memories. One of the special hunts we went on was Rawlins, Wyoming antelope hunt. And at that time, I wasn't old enough to hunt, but Dustin had...
Barely
old enough, and so he got himself an antelope, and those were great experiences. And that's what it's all about. The thing about getting out and doing, right, it's having those experiences and creating those lasting memories. That's what we did as a family. We just went out, getting out in nature. It was incredible. Before we dive into your gun, because obviously you've got a gun here that is near and dear to your heart.
Yeah.
Before we dive into your gun, do you have any stories that you would like to share about us growing up that kind of stood out to you?
We'd go out and the old dump, which is by the by the ball field, we would shoot prairie dogs. And we had this experience where we shot these prairie dogs, and there's all these babies came out, and there's a snake, and we opened it up and saw we saw the baby prairie dogs inside the snake. And I kept one of the baby prairie dogs, which was a joke. It was not a good pet.
That's quite feral, huh?
It was a little bit feral. But it was an experience, you know, and we had experiences like that all the time where we would just go out and enjoy the outdoors and enjoy hunting together, and made memories together, you know.
Yeah, Dustin's a little bit older than me,
just a couple of years.
Yeah,
1 year I think.
A year makes a big difference
when you're young.
You know, Dustin would periodically call me up, and when he'd call me up, like as this younger kid, like I was always excited to tag along with Dustin. Calls me out one time. He's like, "Oh, I caught this baby skunk," and
yes, we gotta tell that story.
And so he's like, "You got to come over and see this baby skunk." I'm like, "It's gonna spray you." He's like, "Oh, little babies don't have their little stink bags." So I go over to his house.
Closed trap.
Little box trap.
Yeah, box trap.
So he's caught a skunk in a box trap. So I go over to the house, and he's like, "Hey, you got to check this out." So he lets me peek into the trap. He lifts open the door. And I look inside, and this thing was a gnarly, nasty, big old, scarred up. I mean, it has scars all over it.
Not a baby.
This was not a baby skunk. And he had it sitting there at his house because he had brought it home. So I closed it real quick. I'm like, "Dustin, that's not a baby skunk." And I don't even know if baby skunks have their stink bags or not, but either way, it was pretty funny that he brought this skunk home. You know, that's just one of many stories that we've got.
Well, there's another story that comes along with that. I told it at dinner. So I had this trap, a live trap where I would catch all kinds of animals. I'd catch rabbits, I'd catch skunks, I caught squirrels. And this one time I caught this great big gray squirrel. And I went downstairs, and this is in the 80s when the girls... They wanted to have their hair big, and they're always in the bathroom trying to do the hairspray and stuff. And my sister, who's always in the bathroom, Ginger, was in there. And I opened the door. I threw the gray squirrel in, and I shut the door. And what happened after was glorious. She freaked out. The squirrel, according to her, was running around the walls of the bathroom and then jumping into her hair and then running around the hall. She didn't know what to do, and I was not letting her come out.
Oh, no, and you're keeping her locked in the door. Oh, no.
It was hilarious until I had to actually catch the squirrel again.
Oh, yeah.
Then there was a problem. Because once she got out, I had to catch the squirrel, and that squirrel was not going to be caught. So I was in the bathroom for about an hour, running around that thing, trying to catch that Sam squirrel, but it was so funny.
My goodness.
It was worth it just to see the look on her face and to hear her screams and hear her running around for her life. That was about the same time period.
Yeah.
That live trap I used.
Yeah.
I have some memories with that. So I took the skunk, and I knew it wasn't a young skunk. I knew it was going to spray. So I opened it up, walked back, and I walked back about 20 yards, and I waited.
Yeah, you drove it out, though, to the country a little bit, right?
Oh, yeah, I was up in the hills. Yeah. I went up in the
So he took it out. It was no longer at his house.
No, it wasn't at my house. I knew it was going to spray.
Yeah.
So it walked out. It sprayed all over the place.
All over your trap.
Never the same. Never the same. I bleached it. I did everything. It just smelled like skunk after that.
Stunk after that.
It stunk.
That's what we did, man. Like, I think there's kids out there that are still having similar experiences that might live on the farm or in the country or whatever. But there's a lot of kids that are growing up in the city and they just don't have the same experiences.
They don't have that.
You know, it's definitely not the same. And I've always been grateful for the childhood that I've had. You know, being able to grow up there right on the edge of town and having those experiences. It was a great childhood.
I agree.
It was just incredible. Getting in a little bit of trouble, but a lot of fun.
But the trouble we got in was more natural trouble. It wasn't like kids get in trouble nowadays. It's a lot worse.
It's a whole different ball game. Yeah,
whole different ball game. Yeah. I'm just thankful for the childhood we had.
Yeah. Now, having that said, we have a gun here sitting before us. Now, this is a gun that I've never had on the channel. What is this gun that you have here? Tell me a little bit about the gun and what it is and how it works even.
It looks plain Jane. It does. But it is a killing machine. It's a Thompson Center Omega. So give you some background, I would say maybe 2012. I've been hunting for the past 4 or 5 years with a Thompson Center Hawken, which is a very traditional muzzleloader. And me being the person that I am, I didn't take care of it as well as I should have, and I let it get rusted. I didn't clean it one year, got it back, looked at it. I'm like, oh my gosh, I need a gun. My brother, bless his heart, who cleans all this stuff, always oiled, always polished.
Your
always
brother's
perfect.
very meticulous.
Very meticulous about his guns. And so he saw what I did, and he's just like, oh my gosh, why would you do that?
I bet it was horrible for him.
Horrible. Like, he's like, why would my brother do this to his gun?
Yeah.
Well, he bought this for me. At the time, it was probably only a few $100. I don't even know how much it was.
Yeah.
But he bought it for me, and I started using it, and it has killed more animals than all my other guns combined.
Now, so a muzzleloader, just the basics. A muzzleloader is like a one-shot type thing. Like you're doing. So with this particular gun, do you use the pellets or do you use powder?
I use powder.
You're dumping Pyrex down the barrel.
But you don't get a second shot. With the muzzleloader,
yeah, you don't get a second shot.
It's the first shot.
First shot, yep.
And if you don't hit on the first shot, then you're just going to see that deer, that buck, that monster bull run away because you have to reload. And reloading is not that fast.
It takes a while.
Even with speed loads. With speed load, I dump the powder in, I push it in, put the cap on, and it is honestly maybe 45 seconds. Well, 45 seconds when an animal's running away from you.
After you shot,
So it's first shot or nothing.
Muzzleloaders have been around since the 16th century. Early versions required black powder, which you'd carefully measure and pour down the barrel, followed by a patch and ball. The patch helped seat the ball and created a better seal, allowing the gases from the ignited powder to properly expel the bullet. Now, this is different from modern firearms, which are breech fed and use a cartridge. A cartridge incorporates the bullet, powder, and primer into one casing. With muzzleloaders, everything is loaded from the front, while the ignition system sits at the rear of the barrel. Over time, advancements in technology have shaped the muzzleloader into what it is today. One of the key changes was the transition from using cloth patches to modern sabots, or sabots. These are plastic casings that encase the bullet. Sabots improve accuracy and make loading much easier. Powder technology also has evolved. We've moved from traditional black powder to Pyrex and eventually to pre-measured pellets, which offer greater convenience and consistency. One of the biggest changes, though, came in the ignition system, with each advancement bringing significant improvements. The earliest system, the matchlock, relied on a slow-burning match cord to ignite the powder. While it worked, it had its challenges, especially in bad weather. Whether a gust of wind or rain could easily extinguish the match. Then in the 17th century, the flintlock revolutionized muzzleloading. A piece of flint would strike steel, creating sparks that ignited the powder. This was far more reliable and remained the standard for more than 200 years. By the early 19th century, the percussion cap came along and was a true game changer. These small caps contained mercury fulminate, which ignited when struck by the hammer, sending a flame into the powder. This system was not only more efficient, but also less vulnerable to weather than flintlocks. Eventually, inline muzzleloaders came on the scene, offering a more direct ignition pathway. Early inline models still used the small percussion caps, but these weren't always reliable. Manufacturers then shifted to the shotgun primers, which provided a hotter, more consistent spark, solving issues like misfires and hangfires. This leap in technology made modern muzzleloaders significantly more dependable. Personally, I started with the traditional, which is this gun here. Traditional muzzleloader using a hammer and percussion caps similar to an old flintlock. This is a gun that I used and started with. I used it in competitions and really enjoyed the challenge. For hunting, I began with an inline that used the old, smaller percussion caps. Unfortunately, it was unreliable and often misfired, leading to frustrating experiences. But then manufacturers transitioned to the shotgun primers. The reliability improved dramatically. It was a night and day difference. And now I love using this modern system. And this is the gun that I actually use today, is my Omega here. Muzzleloaders may be older technology compared to modern breech loaders, but shooting one connects you to the history of firearms. It's a fantastic way to appreciate the evolution from flintlocks to today's precision rifles. So whether you're drawn to traditional muzzleloaders or prefer modern inline designs, firing one is a step back in time, an opportunity to experience the roots of firearm technology firsthand. You've killed more animals with it than like all your other guns.
I have.
Which is saying something about a muzzleloader.
I'm talking 200 yards, 250 yards running. I have made shots that I didn't believe I could do. I'm talking, I see elk running down the mountain, right? And I see an opening. I pick the opening out, I shoot, and I hit it right in the heart. That's open sights.
Yeah.
Which blows my mind.
Yeah.
But it's something about the peripheral view. You don't have the scope, and you know your gun. You're comfortable with your gun. But I'll tell you what, I've made some amazing shots. Lucky for me, like from my standpoint, I'm not that good of a shot, but oh my gosh, great shots. This gun right here is going to be with me till the day I die, and it's so plain and so like mundane, but it is killing machine for me. I'm going to tell you two stories. One is the background for this. It was the first gun before that, but it's about a place. So in 2002, I had just barely got divorced, and me and my brother went on a hunt over by Vernal, which he lived there, and I had my Toyota, and we went over up a dry canyon, and it was snowing like crazy, and we saw these two elk. It was three elk. It was a mom and two calves cross the road right in front of us. I stopped. I had my Hawken. It wasn't this gun. It was my Hawken. I followed their tracks through these woods, and I came to a clearing, and I could see the mom and the two calves on the other side of the clearing. I got down, bear down, I shot one of the calves. I had a cow tag at the time. I wanted a calf.
The young tender meat.
Meat. I shot that calf, and then I walked back to the truck. Mark was there, and he's like, "What happened?" I was like, "Yeah, this is what happened." And I said, "This is a clearing. It's a clear out. We got to find a road to it." So we drove all the way back into Charlie's Park and went around the back way, went up this dugway, and we went up this rocky road in my Toyota, and we topped out, and we were right there. We drove right to this calf.
Oh, nice.
And right then and there, we named this place Dead Cow Flat. So we did that, and then this is when it was all cleared out. Well, years later, I think it was like maybe 3 years later, he gave me this gun. And we knew that area because we'd been hunting it for a few years. Yeah. And we drove up to Dead Cow Flat, and there was these trees that are about this tall. They were nothing before, but they were this tall. Now they're so tall. Big. Yeah. It's not a flat anymore. Yeah. But then it was still a flat, and I saw some elk on the very edge of the flat, and I saw this cow, and I had a cow tag. With this gun, I shot it right in the head. I aimed at his head, I shot it in the head, and it was amazing. Down, done. The bones are still there. If I take you to that spot, I can show you the bones. That whole area, we hunted for probably 15 years, but that first year, we didn't know the area. We didn't even know there was a road that went up to there. Now we know the whole area. When people hear us say Dead Cow Flat, they don't even understand what that means. Yeah. Because it's not even a flat anymore. It's not a clearing. It's trees now. Yeah. But they clear cut zones, and then they let it grow out.
Clear cutting kind of helps it rebirth almost. Yes. Kind of grow up new vegetation and stuff like that. From what I understand.
Does. Yeah. So there's new flats now, like new clearings. But then that was the spot, and so when me and my brother, whenever we talk, when I say Dead Cow Flat, he knows exactly what I'm talking about. He knows the ridge. He knows Turkey Pond, right on the other side of that ridge.
And that was named because there was a bunch of turkeys there one year, wasn't
there? My dad was sitting there, and there was a bunch of turkeys came out, so we named that. So like we have all these names for these spots, but we never hunted that place until that year, which was 2002. And now, like, we go there all the time. Well, I haven't been there for a few years, but I have shot with this gun at least, I'm just going to say 10. 10 elk, all hard shots, all vital shots, all running shots. Which is crazy. I remember one time I was on my four-wheeler. I'm going down this cutoff road off the ridge, and I went down it, and I seen the elk moving, pulled up, and I saw him moving through, and I shot one, and it died in the road. And my brother came, a few hours later, and I'm quartering it up, and he's like, "Why don't you move it off the road?" I'm like, "Because
this is where it was."
He's like, "What about a truck coming?" I'm like, "No, this is cool." The bones are still there, right off the side of the road.
When you say the bones, you're talking about. Oh yeah, okay. Let's see.
We
Because you quarter it. Yep,
we
that's
quarter
right.
them, so we leave them as what do we call them?
A shrimp.
Not a shrimp. Seahorse. Seahorse. Mountain seahorse. I think that's what it's called.
Mountain seahorse.
Something like that. Like they honestly look like something out of this world, but that's the birds get to eat.
Yeah.
The coyotes get to eat.
Yeah.
But we get we get the back straps.
Yeah.
We get the quarters.
Yeah.
We get everything, but then we leave the rest.
I don't know. Do you guys usually quarter your deer as well?
No.
Have you started doing it or?
I haven't quartered my deer. Yeah. I quarter the elk every time. Yeah.
Elk are just such large animals that when you're hiking into an area, or even if you're not hiking into an area, this one was right there on the road, and it's just so much easier to quarter it.
It is.
You harvest as much meat as you can, so you're taking the quarters, the back straps, some organs, like heart, and you got the liver. What he's talking about, you call it a mountain seahorse, Rocky Mountain seahorse.
Sure.
So you have this carcass. I'm going to use your phone. You have a front and the hind quarters, and it's gone, and you're left with this kind of cylindrical thing, and you got this head right here, and it just makes it look like a seahorse.
Head, spine, without any legs. And it looks like a seahorse.
It looks like a seahorse. The bones take a long time to disintegrate, if they disintegrate at all, and they're theirs. Everything benefits from have a carcass. You got the flies and ants and who knows what else that come and cleans it off. Mountains live. Yep.
Well, you leave the guts, and there's animals and birds that love that.
Yeah. Yep, they're in there. They're absolutely, the crows are flying. Mm-hmm. You can kind of tell when, there's a carcass round or something if you hear the crows. We get to harvest a good portion of the meat and use it and for our own consumption. And to me, again, it gives me a greater appreciation for life.
You leave that stuff there. You don't worry about it because you know that's going to be eaten up within a week.
Yep.
So it's not like you're wasting anything.
No.
You're taking all the meat. You're taking everything you can take. And you're going to use it, and you're going to enjoy it. You're not wasting it, but what you leave behind is appreciated. You've got to realize that. Like, it's not like you're wasting it because the crows, the coyotes, mountain lions, birds, they all love it.
So coming back to your gun then.
Right there.
So this is the Omega.
I don't even think they make these anymore. It's a simple gun, but it's a very good gun.
Tried and true and reliable. And a gift from your brother, which is really unique and special. You know what I mean?
He had no reason to do that.
Yeah.
And he did, and it turned out to be my favorite gun. If I was to condense all of my stories down to one thing, it is moving target, running, open sights, heart shot. That happened consistently for about 10 years.
Yeah.
Every year, every shot, every time. And it blew my mind because I'm not that good of a shot. I'm not going to pat myself in the back that good. But this gun with me, it was perfect.
Yeah.
Every time. I never wounded one animal with this gun. Every one was a kill shot. It has a history with me.
Out of curiosity, like how many guns would you say you have in your collection over the years that you've owned?
For me?
Yeah.
Maybe 25.
Okay, so 25 guns throughout the years that Dustin's owned. And this is the gun that sticks out to him, right?
And this is the most plain one. Plain one.
And so, I mean, that says a lot about a gun. But because of the experiences and the performance that it has given you, you take a lot of people out, especially with handguns. You put a handgun in your hand, some guns just resonate with you.
Yeah.
And some guns you're like, I hate this gun. It's kind of, it's like Harry Potter and the wands.
What the?
Oh no.
Harry Potter and the wands? Sorry.
That's what the beauty of guns and finding a gun that resonates with you is then you become comfortable with it. You know that gun in and out, and then it becomes a killing machine. Right?
Yeah,
especially when it comes to hunting guns.
This gun, I can take it out and be comfortable shooting a deer or an elk 300 yards away.
Yeah.
Running 150 yards guaranteed. And
with open sights even,
open sights, and it shoots good for me.
Yeah.
It's comfortable. I trust it. It trusts me in a way, in a weird way. I will never doubt this gun.
I appreciate you sharing with me about your gun here. The Omega. With regards to these muzzleloaders, there have been some transitions. You used to have the thing in the back, and you put the cap in. This one has a drop down.
Is inline
Okay,
is what they call it.
Yeah.
So it's not a cap. It's going to be the shotgun shell.
Like a shotgun primer.
Yeah. And you take the breech out, you can clean it out. So it's an inline.
Okay.
The one before that, the Hawken, was the cap.
Yeah.
And that gun I had some memories with. It was actually almost as good as this one for me. Like, I had some great, amazing shots with it. But this one just transitioned. Like, I rusted it out. My brother gave me this, and it just was like the last one on steroids.
I think I still have a Thompson Center Fire, and it has the little cap.
Yeah.
And I'd clean the little nipple out all the time, right?
Yeah.
Like, it just
misfired a lot.
It was, oh man. And I remember the first time I had an opportunity to shoot a buck. It was a really nice buck.
And it misfired.
And you pull the trigger.
I think I was
and
there.
Snap.
I think I remember that.
And I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yep.
And miss it, and not being able to take a shot at that buck was so frustrating.
Yeah.
And those darn caps, I can't tell you how many times I would misfire. It would snap. It happened a lot.
These ones that don't happen because it's inline and it's a very big.
The primer.
The primer.
Yeah, large primer. Yeah.
That's a very big spark.
So to me, that was a huge change when it came to muzzleloaders.
Yes.
and
no misfire.
Consistency. Yeah. When you went to be able to put a shotgun primer in versus those old caps, it was in a way a game changer. So
my first buck that I ever shot was with your grandpa. It was Coal Creek, which is in between Wellington and Price, and we went up. He was with me.
Just up in the foothills there, huh?
Up the foothills.
Okay.
And I had my Hawken. It was a 2x4. All I could see was the 4. I just saw these 4 points. I'm like, I'm gonna get him. And he's like, take your time, squeeze it. And there was 2 triggers.
Oh, okay.
So I shot the first trigger.
Was this one of those traditionals with the hammer?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a traditional Hawken.
Yeah.
With 2 triggers.
Okay.
So
the one was to set the trigger.
I set it first, and then I shot, and I hit it right in the back, and it dropped. Boom.
Yeah.
And he said, "Yeah, you just paralyzed it."
Yeah.
And it was trying to get up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he went over there and slit his throat.
Oh yeah.
Right in front of me. I thought
like
that was
just
cool.
Yeah. No second shot or anything. Just took his knife out and bam, there you go. Just
boom. He's like, "There you."
And that was with
your
my
buck.
grandpa, huh?
That was your grandpa.
Oh,
my first buck.
Your first ever buck.
I was 14, I think.
Yeah. So with a muzzleloader and
with my Hawken.
Yeah. There's a story that comes along with finishing a deer off with a knife.
Yes.
Yes.
Talking about up on the benches.
I'm talking about when my great grandpa roped a buck.
Oh, my grandpa with your grandpa.
Okay.
And my grandpa roped him, and your grandpa was watching all this. My grandpa roped him, and then got him tied up in a tree.
So my grandpa, Dustin's uncle.
Yes.
And our great grandpa, Thorald Rich, they're riding horses, and this buck takes off, and so he kicks his horse in gear, and and he ropes it.
He ropes it. That is what I remember too.
So he ropes this.
Your grandpa told me the story.
Yeah.
Just so you know.
Okay. Yeah. So he ropes this buck.
Yeah. And then he's like, "Oh, I roped a little too much."
And then brings up his horse, and then his horse realizes what's on the other end of that rope. And so the horse starts to bucking, and he might have gone around the tree or something to kind of tie it off or whatever. He gets the buck tied off, and then he takes his horse and he goes and gives it a licking because his horse was acting up. He's pissed off at his horse. Yeah. So now he's got this buck at the end of the rope, and this is where the buck would charge him, and it would hit the end of the rope and like flip it over. Anyways, when it's all said and done, he slit the buck's throat.
Oh.
He didn't shoot it.
I believe that.
He took his knife out and finished the buck with his hands and a knife.
While it's fighting and trying to get away.
Yeah.
And then wrapped around the tree.
Wrapped around the tree, yeah.
Wow.
Our grandpa was a different breed of person, I think.
He was a small person.
He was.
But very first drink I ever had was with him. I was 12 years old.
So are you serious?
We sat down on the back porch and had a drink together. Sorry, I'm just throwing shit at you. He loved me. You know why?
Yeah, what's that?
Because he told the story till the day he died. I was maybe 3 or 4 years old, maybe 5. I'm not sure. Right around there. And I was on his porch, and he said, "Hey, Dustin, go get that wrench for me." I said, "Get your own wrench, Grandpa." Went down, and I was doing my thing, and he looked at me, and he's like, "Oh, I love him." Seeing me defy him.
Yeah. He was like,
"Oh my gosh, I actually adore that kid because that kid is like me."
Yeah.
He told my dad about that forever. My dad kept reminding me about that story.
So this is the house with the big cotton. Didn't it have like
this
big,
is the
big,
one
big
on the
tree?
corner with the big
corner,
tree.
yeah.
You used to climb up the tree. Remember that?
That house isn't there anymore, right? There's
yeah,
something.
there's nothing there now.
Yeah,
that's the
you
same
walk
place
in,
where
there's-
I skid up my knee.
Yeah,
Travis
So
did that.
Travis, so we're out there at the house, and it's getting late, starting to get dark, from what I remember, and Travis has got his he's got his rope.
He's our cousin who was a teenager. We were young.
Yeah.
And he was a roper.
He was a roper, and he had his rope out. He was roping things. He looks at Dustin. He says, "Run."
I ran.
So Dustin just started booking it, and Travis like 2 leaps threw it out.
Took
and
my heels.
He roped Dustin, and Dustin went down hard. And
harder than this.
Right, right as he hit pavement, there was dirt right here, 2 feet this way, and he was a foot into the pavement, and bam, his knee came down on it.
I went across the whole street.
Oh, and then
Almost
you probably
almost.
skid.
Yeah,
huh?
I skidded. Yeah. Peeled it all the way down. There's gravel embedded in there, and
You had to go to the hospital and get the stitches from it. I
I'll
think,
never
didn't
forget
you?
watching. They did all the iodine, and they picked out all this asphalt, and they stitched it across here. But Travis didn't remember that years later. I was like,
"Oh, really?
You remember when they did this?" He's like, "No." I'm like, "Look at my scar."
Yeah.
He didn't remember.
There was another time that you sliced your knee open with a knife. Tell
You
us.
weren't with me. I shot a bull, took it home, cut it in half, hung it up on our swing set. Next morning, I had a game that night. Next morning, I got up and I was skinning it. I brought my friend over, Steven. I was straddled around the neck, and I jerked and stuck my knee. And I remember the sound.
Like it just...
When I pulled it out, it went...
Oh, man. That's not good.
I think I'm injured. So I walk in, and my dad's in the bathroom. I knock on the door. My dad, he's like, "Yeah, I'll be out in a minute." I'm like, "No, Dad, this is an emergency." He's like, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, I stuck my knee, and when I bend it, it pumps blood out. When I don't bend it, it just swells." Anyway, I ran in, and we rushed me to the hospital, and I went into surgery, and they had to close off an artery right there, and they had to fix my knee because I stuck it right through.
Yeah.
I missed that game that night. That was the worst part about it. So Charlie's part became a thing for us after that 1 year.
Yeah.
A few years later, we'd always load up on cow tags and bull tags, and we knew where the elk were. We knew how they moved.
Yeah.
The cow tags were meat. That's all it
absolutely,
was. We weren't going for trophies.
No.
And whenever I saw a calf, I guarantee you I shot the calf because that was the best meat.
Best meat, yeah.
So tender, so nice, so good,
And that's truly a testament to this gun in your hands, right?
This gun shot them all, and they were all kill shots. They were all hard shots.
Yeah.
The calf was easy. He was laying down.
Yeah.
But all the rest were running through the trees, and they were heart shots,
Yeah.
which is crazy.
Yeah. That reminds me of my grandpa's gun. So I inherited my grandpa's gun, and to me, his gun was
A 270?
The 270. To me,
I saw-
that gun was to him what this gun is to you.
I saw him
Yeah.
personally make some amazing shots with
Yeah.
the gun.
And he filled tags.
Oh, yeah.
The last hunt that I remember, I honestly don't think that he hunted after this before he passed away. 270, we're on the rifle hunt, and he got 2 bucks with it. With that gun.
What I remember about your grandfather was that he hiked circles around the youngest guys.
Yep.
He was a hiker.
Yeah.
And he would get out and go out, and he enjoyed it and loved it, and he was a great shot and a great guy and a great sense of humor and just an enjoyable man.
Yep.
I really liked him.
Yeah. And he helped create those memories, especially in 9 Mile Canyon. A lot of memories in 9 Mile. So my grandma grew up there. Your dad was probably
my dad's
a little
sister,
bit...
Norma.
Your dad, I don't think, spent as much time in as a baby, right?
He was
Because
there
he was a little bit
like
younger?
6 or 7.
Okay, yeah.
But Norma and I had a connection, and she would always talk my ear off. And my dad, I'll be honest with you. My dad hated all the 9 miles. Like she was so into 9 mile.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah.
I ate it up, and just hearing her stories, and she was just so interested in it. And he was too, but I think he just got a little bit wore out, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
But she was a special person.
She was. So in Utah, a little bit about 9 Mile. If you look it up, there's 9 Mile Canyon Settlers Association, and you can look that up. A great organization in preserving history as far as 9 Mile goes, and it's history and stories from not just our family, but from multiple different families. Now, 9 Mile is kind of between Vernal and Price, and it is, they call it the largest artwork display probably in the world, because 9 Mile Canyon is not 9 miles long.
No,
it's
not
like 30
miles.
plus miles, something like that.
That's not where the name came from.
And you find petroglyphs,
granaries, petroglyphs,
and art display of Native
stuff.
Americans throughout the whole canyon. So there's a rich history that predates our family being there.
Yep.
Literally rich history. Our grandparents' time in 9 Mile Canyon. It's an amazing place. If you ever or find yourself in Utah, check out 9 Mile. Find somebody that can kind of show you the ropes, and it's definitely an experience.
One thing I remember about your grandma, Norma, is she would take us to granaries and places that nobody else knew about and that hadn't been touched, and that was amazing.
I mean, she rode the horse down the canyon. This was before. Now there's a nice paved road. Before it used to be this big washboard. Before then it was even probably worse. And they rode their horse up and down it, and she spent a lot of time riding. And it's like finding something new every time you go down there. You'll see a new petroglyph that you had never seen before. It's almost like you get to discover it yourself as if it was the first time. Yeah. Even though maybe thousands of people have seen that one petroglyph, the fact that you see it is like, oh, wow, look at that one. You know what I mean? And so her riding her horse, she knew where a lot of the granaries were. She knew where a lot of the petroglyphs were.
She had an amazing mind and memory. Yeah. And she made sure that her kids, grandkids, great-grandkids, whoever, knew that history. You know, with Rugged Tactical, it gives me an excuse to sit and chat with people and just hear a little bit about their lives, hear about their experiences with guns, with firearms. It's part of the Western culture where our great-great-grandpa, Charles Colson Rich, came across the plains with the pioneers and was shooting buffalo. You know, and that's the stock, that's the breed that we came from. And then coming from even our grandpa, who, you know, is roping bucks and killing it with his bare hands and a knife. You know what I mean? For us to be able to get out there and have those experiences is just unique and amazing. And the stories when it comes to guns are endless. And that's what Rugged Tactical is all about, is preserving some of that history. So if you have a gun, there's a story behind it. In your own way, if you don't ever make it on the channel, try to preserve some of that history. Get in front of a camera, leave a heritage, and help educate the general public, those that haven't had the same experiences as us. They can go out and ask somebody, say, hey, you know, how do I get into hunting, or how can I do this? Or take me to the gun range, the local gun range, go shooting, teach me the ropes so that I can do it safely. That's what it's all about. Thank you again, Dustin. I appreciate it, man. This has truly been a pleasure. Everybody should have an excuse to do something like this. You know what I mean? I'm glad you came down. Yeah. Remember to subscribe, pull the trigger on that bell icon. As the dust settles on another Rugged Tactical adventure, keep the fires burning, always reload your curiosity. Catch you on the next round. Catch you next round. Thanks for watching.
We drove around that gravel pile and up that ridge and clear off the other side the other night.
Did you?
Yeah.
Over there in Charlie Park, huh?
Yeah.
You see any deer over there?
Just some does.
That's where we get into them elk, boy, in November. Right down to them Quakies. And then up on the hill there, too.
A lot of country out there, miles and miles of country with solid forests.
So tell us about your Christmas. This is 1991. Start off with your shotgun this time.
Okay. Got my shotgun, the Remington 870 Pump Express, the vent rib, Remington choke, and What kind of metal is it?
Metal
Metal.
finish. With
Metal
the oil finish on the
Oil
stock.
finish, kick pad,
Uh-huh.
12 gauge, 3-inch mag.
All right.